Good morning, everyone. I'm Jane Sartin, Executive Director of the Flexible Space Association, and welcome to the second in our series of Workspace Wisdom webinars. I'm slightly regretting that title, as it's quite difficult to say. And these are designed to give practical advice on running flexible workspaces to members of the Flexible Space Association. And I know that we're also joined by a number of guests this morning as well. Today, we have Zoe Ellis-Moore with us, who is the CEO and founder of Spaces to Places, to be talking about marketing strategies and plans. As we go along, feel free to put questions into the chat box, and I'll pick these up at the end with Zoe. And we've got a few questions that were submitted in advance as well, so we'll cover those at the end. So without further ado, I shall find Zoe's presentation and then leave her to present.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and lovely to see so many people here today. I think there's quite a variety of different people from marketing backgrounds, some non-marketing backgrounds, larger providers, smaller providers. So we've got a great mix of people. So hence it's going to be very much quite top level, going through all the details. What I'm really keen on at the moment is, I think we've all been through a bumpy ride for the last 2 years, and hence sometimes marketing planning has turned into much more reactive time. So now I think we can really look ahead this year, and especially if you're coming up to a new financial year or anything, planning ahead is crucial, and that's where the marketing strategy and plan comes into place. My big objective for today is to inspire. I think it's always great to learn from different operators, different providers. So hopefully you'll come away with some inspiration and be excited about creating plans. So that is my big objective there. What I'm going to do, so I've been given sort of 15 to 20 minutes sort of to go through the presentation, and then with questions at the end. So the content of the presentation I'm just going to go through with yourself is really, first of all, giving a big picture. I think it's really important to have that big picture perspective before thinking about marketing strategy and plan. Then the second part, always want to give you some sort of overview on some tools and techniques and sort of for building that plan strategy. And then finally, very much some top tips, some practical sort of guidance there, and questions is always going to be really helpful, because I think we've got great people online today. We can learn from each other as well. So do put in questions and get involved. So with no further ado, I will go into the first slide here. So approach. This is sort of Spaces to Places' signature approach, and it's always going back to research first. One of the crucial things is, before you jump in and get really tactical with marketing or thinking about what you're going to be doing, always look back and sort of what research, if you have a portfolio, you've got one location, really understanding the local dynamics is crucial. Understanding what's worked before, what's your target client base, you know, what's your tenants, what's their makeup, what are they looking for, what's demand, has it gone much more towards the co-working, has it gone to more larger office spaces, looking what new competitions come about. Research will always give you a good foundation, so a good point to start with first of all. And what we always do is look at research and the data, then find out if we need further information. So I would say, before you even start thinking about planning, is look at what data and information is available there on the sort of the very much what the situation is locally. We know the bigger picture on the industry and stuff, so bringing that in as well on the it's a growth sector and the transition much more from conventional leases and big corporates coming over to flex as well. So bringing everything together there. The next part is always then about placemaking, or what's the brand experience. So that encompasses all the things, elements that bring together what your brand's about. So what sort of customer touch points, what they see, the customer service, the interior design, what community it is. Is it more professional corporate end of the market for more introverts? Is it more about extroverts? And is it about sort of creative collaborative spaces? What is your makeup inside? Is it bigger, larger sort of office occupiers, traditional office occupiers? Is it more the freelancer sort of vibe and network? So really understanding what your place and how that brand that you've created, placemaking, what we call sort of that placemaking, is really thinking about the whole brand as a whole. So analysing your brand will really help as well with the marketing to make sure your product's right. So thinking about if there is any tweaks needed. So that's where we always look at what's the brand, what's the perception. Sometimes just doing some simple surveys of businesses that aren't your tenants, asking them what they think really gives you some great foundation with sort of really creating a great brand of solid foundation there. Finally, once you've got the research, the sort of the placemaking there in place, you can do marketing, and the difference is you can do revenue generating marketing because you know who you're targeting, you know your product's right for that audience. That's the difference there. Often I get requests where people are like, oh, we need more technology. Actually, we can't just magically appear technology sort of clientele in the workspace. You need to know if the research is telling you that there's a demand locally, that there's businesses already out there, that technology companies needing workspaces. So it's always, I find some people have lots of hope marketing ideas and thoughts, and it's always making sure that you know your plans are realistic because they're based on information that you know locally, what type of business is there, or what targets that you can go after. That's crucial with managing expectations. So that's generally a quick snapshot of our approach. But the other part before you go into the planning is really thinking of the business strategy. Because business strategy always has implications for marketing strategy. One of the things I do sort of look at with businesses and the questions and sort of we're always trying to understand at Spaces Places is these sort of objectives there. And is the business strategy very much short term and very much taking some examples of the opposite extremes? Private equity is going to be much more short term. They're going to be looking for faster sort of turnaround of workspace. They're going to be a bit more sort of looking at the figures. A family-owned business is going to be much more long-term, building that pipeline and very much knowing that business is going to be there for the long term. Some of these things change, but understanding the company structure and how it implements the business strategy is key. We've also got lots of different levels as well. We're going to focus on a bit with the planning much more on sort of the locational level marketing tactics that can come into play there. But you need to consider the bigger corporate strategy. Is there sort of the corporate level, maybe you're trying to raise some investment, so you're going out with PR and stuff, that would be much more corporate level as the organisation as a whole. If you're a big sort of IWG, you'll have a corporate level with IWG and then separate brands and much more company level. So there's sometimes marketing strategies very much on that corporate level. And they're very different from very much the activation locally with a local workspace. In the middle, quite a few of you might be in this sort of band. You've got much more of a company that you've got that company brand level that you're looking at. We've seen quite a few. I was thinking sort of Ariga have done a new brand and website. With Runaways have also changed their brand and their target market and their website as well. Clockwise have a new website. Quite a lot have been really looking at their company level and what that brand is across their portfolio. So that's more where you're looking at across a portfolio level of company marketing. So calling up the local level, this is where sort of focused on one flexible workspace and the marketing activities there. So I think it's all setting that scene out first is crucial. Then with the strategies, that always links to goals. So you might have a growth strategy, you might be expanding loads of different new locations and sites, you might be going into new products, you might be venturing into, say, a part-time office product. So this is really growth. This is a strategy to sort of classify it sometimes in the sort of theory book, they call it much more of a defensive strategy. But you could be thinking about just retaining your current clientele. You might be at 95% occupancy. So you're very much about customer retention then. It's a different type of strategy, keep factor, and keeping that churn of new customers once you've got availability coming in is a different type of strategy. You might have low occupancy on the opposite extreme, and you'd be much more like, we need to target new audiences, we need to bring in and secure new occupiers. So you've got much more of an acquisition strategy for your planning there, and the implications. A lot at the moment with providers, what we found with COVID, customer expectations have changed. No longer is an office a commodity and must have, every business thinking they need an office space. So with this change that we've seen with the last 2 years, customer expectations is so much more higher. And where I've mentioned quite a few rebranding and new websites and really getting much more technology savvy to have that first impression online really strong, is expectations, customer service, response rates is much, much higher now. So sometimes you might have a whole project, quite a few clients we've been working with have been about evolving, and their strategy is about evolving, making sure that they have a strong presence now in a post-COVID world. Others, you might say your strategy is very much more competitive advantage, whether that's technology, whether you want to be the destination, or whether you're an ink hive and you're much more about a lost sort of cost tech space, which is a very niche offering for the sector. So competitive advantage is another sort of strategy. So these are a few bigger strategies that you can be thinking about implementing there. Now, I think if we think about some of the tools and techniques, I'm just going to go through the channels now. This is more, there's lots of ways of cutting them up, but thinking crucially about channels. I do always go like that. You have loads of opportunities for marketing. You can do sometimes contra deals as well, and utilising the space you have to make your marketing budget work harder. So events has always proved, sort of COVID, been a great way to bring in new clientele. Signage is a key one. I think I've seen many times that people walk past some workspaces and think they're cafes or they're something else. They don't realise the offering inside. So this is where that first sort of customer interactions need to be strong, explaining what's inside and what you're about. So always on-site marketing is a great channel to be thought of as well, and sometimes often forgotten. The whole sort of community management as well. So there's lots of activities that you can do, partnerships there, really focusing on that word of mouth and that community engagement. So I've just put them in here on this slide into different buckets. Crucially, one to focus on that should always be in a plan is your CRM system and how you're nurturing leads, how you're working with that database. This can lead in then to sort of direct marketing. If you've got that great foundation of a database, we've done the research and built out a database of targets, you can be doing really great email marketing. That's highly effective. Lead generation marketing, maybe outreaches via LinkedIn as well. Door drops, sometimes that works really well if you're a very local neighbourhood. I've seen some great results there. So thinking about how you then, with that sort of database CRM approach, actually do some really targeted direct marketing is a key, another sort of bucket that I've put in there. Website is a core foundation. It should be. Websites generally I see is about lead generation. So looking at conversions there, really optimizing, making sure it's SEO optimized and the user experience is strong there. So website needs to appear as quite a fundamental one in the whole plan. We can open up the whole with ads, whole world with advertising. PPC is a really good, strong way that you've got people that are interested with the intention of purchasing or looking and investigating flexible office spaces, especially if they're searching on the word offices, co-working there. So there's lots you can do now with digital display adverts and social adverts, but also clients working with still sort of magazines. There's a lifestyle magazine locally, advertising on radio. These ones do work. Traditional media does work, and it's become a bit more cost effective in a post-COVID world that we're finding some great opportunities locally. We'll bring on later about Google My Business, but really seeing the increase with Google My Business and the importance of that with search as well, and searching on maps, because it's the third largest sort of search now, people searching on maps. So we're finding increased exposure with Google My Business profiles there, and really optimizing as well. Instagram's become much more stronger with local hashtags coming. You know, if you're focusing on a sort of local area hashtag strategy, that's working really strong. And the final one I've got there, no, I'm going through whistle top speed with everything here, is brokers. So I do see this as a marketing channel, because the brokers need sort of relationship building. They need great content, and you need sort of hero, really strong images and copy as well to stand out, especially if you're in an area where there's quite a lot of competition. You want to stop people scrolling. So you've got to really work with marketing and have eye-catching content there. So I thought I would give you an example of sort of building out a sort of strategy there. I've been, with these images that I put in, thinking very much about a more local sort of neighbourhood workspace on fringes of a city centre, and how you would go about marketing. So with this example and some images, I thought to give you a flavour. Here, the strategy would very much be a community first approach, and really embedding grassroots activities into the local community. The activities for minimum wastage would be highly targeted for the highest conversion rates. Look, depending on what flexible office and where it is, this is what I'm sort of suggesting you look to a 6-minute drive time on how far people are willing to travel. There's always a connection with the distance that businesses are already located, on how far you can pull them in as well. So that's why it's very much a targeted approach. For the larger demands, do say that to work with a broker, and quite a few of the broker portals there, FlexSA, Easy Offices, any of the big ones there, because they will bring in leads as well, that you need those larger leads, because your local targeted marketing activity will focus on the local pipeline. That's crucial there for minimum wastage and making sure it's really effective. And generally, I would say the stronger the brand, usually they do spend more on sort of marketing and seeing its importance. Sometimes it's all about budgets for marketing. A lot of time and resources are taken up with sort of creating great content, those creative ideas, even if budgets are tight. If you've got great ideas on execution, so worked with different providers, we've painted bikes and put them in the local area. Other providers, we've really worked on signage outside and found that's made a huge difference. You can come up with much more guerrilla creative marketing ideas. It isn't sometimes always about the budgets, but what I tend to find is it's looking at budgets as a percentage of revenue is crucial. Also comparing it on how much, if you're bringing in leads, one of the justifications of marketing is looking at the cost of what you would pay a broker for that lead. So that's a great tool that often used to justify the marketing budgets, to say we need sort of 10% there because you would pay a broker 10% to fill the place. How we would sort of develop it is into some buckets, and one that's always core is that top line brand awareness. And I would say this is about creating compelling content. So there's always a sort of content sort of with this sort of, I put 25 different buckets here. 4 different buckets, about 25% of time allocation. Sort of, I would look at sort of the marketing plan allocating to each. So one is focused on really great content, core baseline content. The other, because of this provider being much more a neighborhood workspace, the local awareness ecosystem is crucial. So the activities there of media partnerships, PR locally, local business networks. So we've put 25% of effort and focus into the local ecosystems, really with that awareness objective. What you're seeing here is a traditional sales funnel. So your reach is going to be bigger with the awareness, but then you're trying to filter people down to convert them. To convert people, they need to start discovering and learning about yourself. So this is where targeted communications are really strong, and sometimes it's neglected because it's that overlap between sales and marketing. But to bring organic leads yourself, and if you've done lots of marketing activities, paid for adverts and everything, you want to be capturing those people's data and then targeting them. So that's where targeted communications is crucial. For the final bit is really focusing on conversions and efforts. They call them calls to action. You need to really think about these trigger points of a tour. How are you going to convert people? That is a key part of the marketing. So the marketing plan here is really about being very targeted and commercially driven about how you spend your time and how you're converting people. What we do with sort of KPIs with each of these sort of 4 buckets here, we put KPIs around each of these in the sales funnel of activities to sort of link it with the marketing plan always. Spaces to Places have worked with a variety of different providers, all different sizes as well. So we bring, I think the enjoyment I get of going to different workspaces and seeing how to bring them to life and with their USPs is crucial. One thing I would recommend is always to go out and venture out to a new area, see a new workspace, because I think it will give you, now we can sort of much more be able to go different places. It will energize you by seeing different workspaces and how they market as well, because you work out where your strengths are and how then to crystallize your own offering. So we've got so many new providers coming up with new propositions. And like I said, post-COVID now, the customer service element, the whole experience element is really increased. So being aware of other providers and competition is crucial. Just going finally into sort of top tips that we found the last 2 years working really well is being personable, especially on LinkedIn. Personal profiles are reaching way more people, or direct responses from a person. So people respond to people and businesses. Sometimes this might be bringing the founder's story out much more. So personal branding, a key one. The other one with branding is consistency. I think it's not, we're creating a whole marketing plan. The great thing is crucial that you think about content, not just for short-term social media quickly, but your whole bank of content that you can use and at first impressions there. I come on to here as well, hero images and copy. With that first impression, with the consistency and everything, it gives you credibility. And statistics are saying you can earn 25% sort of more if your brand is consistent, that people are willing to spend because they see you as quality. So always thinking that by being consistent, you're getting a higher revenue as well. Websites now, we're seeing much more the move to performance marketing, and we're working a lot more on goal conversion tracking for return on investment, especially now with PPC. You can see those user journeys much more. So websites getting much more tighter on the purpose about being lead generation and directing right through the website, that journey to get people to inquire and actually give their data. As mentioned before, Google My Business is really strong. So working with Google and posting and getting reviews added is going to stand you in good stead. Most providers are finding more people hitting Google My Business than their website, so that's why it's important there. The other one I mentioned was targeting and database marketing. Sometimes often forgotten sort of part of the marketing mix, but reaps the benefits of you're continuously building those relationships, and knowing who your targets are of local businesses locally is crucial to build those relationships. Thank you so much. I know that I've been talking at speed with you for about 20 minutes there and everything, and I'm sure you've got questions. Thank you very much for your time there.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. Now we lost Zoe a few times with some slight signal drop-offs, but I think we didn't lose any of the content. There was an awful lot packed in there, and hopefully we can hold on for some questions. It's all the perils of online, but I think it's been okay. So we will. So just a reminder, if anyone has any more questions, just to put those in the chat box. But I've got a few that were submitted when people registered. So firstly, how do you create more direct leads for office space, or will there always be a reliance on brokers? And I think you've covered obviously a huge amount in that for the first bit of the question, but the broker aspect's interesting. So it might be something that you'd like to address.
I think with the dynamics of the broker industry, it's much more dominated London and Manchester, Birmingham, core cities. That's where most of the brokers' activities are focused, and there you'll get the most leads. If you come outside into more rural areas, you'll find you've got less dominance of brokers, and you have greater strength to build a strong brand. If you look at Platform 9 in Brighton and stuff, they have a really strong brand that's known locally and will get leads directly there. So that's the really strength, because they have invested into that brand as well. We've got a client, Waitinghouse, Basingstoke, 95% of their leads are direct, because working on sort of regular email marketing, websites being optimized, doing PPC and looking at conversions there. So it is possible to reduce your reliance always on brokers. And what we've done quite a lot with quite a few clients is making sure to know all the businesses locally, because there's nothing worse than a lead coming to you from somebody down the road that you should have known already. I think that's the one where you want to reduce that reliance on brokers, on having your close network of local businesses already. That's the big difference there, and where you can reduce that reliance on paying broker fees. But brokers have a role to play, especially if they're bringing somebody outside an area into your area. Then that is their fees and what they're doing in their work, and justifying and selling yourselves in as an area and as a location. That is worthwhile, and that's where I think it's always that balance. They will always work on much more short term and commission, whereas marketing is much more about that pipeline and long term. So there is some differences in the roles there.
Yeah, so the two definitely complement each other as strategies to be taking to increase customers. Just to maybe pick up the question that's just come in, what's your target return on investment, please? There's been a question just tabled.
Yes, so with the return on investment, what looking at is we have a spreadsheet of all the different channels and all the marketing activities. So each of those will have a performance on the percentage. Well, first of all, how much reach, the percentage conversion rates as well. And then we always put a model around 6% going, everybody needs six touch points before they convert. So that's when you put sort of modeling tools in there. With return on investment, it's easier. So is with PPC advertising and showing, so quite a few easy ones that we can demonstrate is by spending money on PPC that it's leading to meeting room bookings and bringing people from outside an area for meeting room bookings. That's an obvious one that can show by spending £200 a month, it's bringing in revenue of sort of £600 a month from PPC. So that one's easier equations, because the bigger sort of whole marketing campaigns and what we're doing is we're looking at return on investment on all those leads, but not attributing it to just a lead, attributing, say, it came from the website. It's not only the website, there's many more channels that will help to support that into conversion. So we have some models there to show sort of with the 10% sort of fee that a broker would pay to a marketing budget there. So directly comparing.
Okay, thank you. Interesting mentioning meeting rooms. That seems to be a real boom area over the last few months. We've been hearing that a lot from our members of interest in meeting rooms. Perhaps the change of people's working arrangements means they're wanting to bring staff together or people. So that seems to have been UK-wide a consistent area. So going back to pre-submitted questions, what are the key factors in determining if a market is right for establishing a flexible workspace product?
So Hilary and the team here at Spaces Places comes from a background of retail planning, so working for large supermarkets and working out where you're going to position a supermarket, what's the demand, what's the local demographics, what's the population. So exactly the same, those models that are used in the hotel industry. You can determine the success factors of a location the same way. So what we do with any clients looking for sort of expansion opportunities is look at worker population, how many the population is there, the workers already, what type of businesses already exists, what's the competition, what's their price point. So we have a sort of, is it near a town centre, what's the vibrancy, is it near a university? So quite a model scorecard. And then, as like with different retailers, there'll be different criteria that are crucial for those success factors as well. So how do you determine a successful location? I think the simple basics would always be making sure their existing worker population is quite a crucial one. Regis will only open if there's 30,000 worker population. I think if you're looking at sort of quick fixes, but there is much more into the models on expansion planning and where to go and what size. I think the other one is determining locations, also what size office and what type of office provision. That also needs to come into the mix as well with locational planning.
Yeah. And with the expansion of flexible workspace, there's so many different types of places, size of places that it's finding a home in, isn't it? It's just lots of different options now. So the final pre-submitted question, how can single site and small SME flexible workspace operators, often with the tiniest of marketing budgets, promote their products and services competitively against bigger and better funded operators? Now, you've obviously touched on that in your presentation, but is there anything that you particularly draw out as being a real recommendation to the smallest flexible workspace operators?
I think it's thinking about those dynamics of the restaurant industry. There is always going to be Pizza Express, Frankie and Benny's, and larger providers. And so they have the marketing spend, but they're spending it on a whole portfolio. You can always find great restaurants locally that have a niche and a USP that stands out. And then it's very much tailored. They're much more connected with the local community. They've got great passionate people and businesses located there as well. So always look at the sort of what bigger companies are sometimes doing and sort of more their grander reach. It's very much with sort of more local independent workspaces focusing on what you do great and standing out for that and thinking about what brings that to life. And partnerships is a great one. What can you do better than a bigger provider? How can you bring people together? How do you sort of influence much more with the local council and partnerships there? Can you work with the economics of sort of department and bring sort of synergies? Because sometimes they open up, quite a few clients open up funding. I think that's the other one. That's always crucial. So really thinking about where's the synergies, contra deals as well, and that your USP. I think if you're targeting a niche, if you're targeting a price point or anything, thinking about how you can shine, that's when it's less about marketing budget, but it's much more that strategical, creative piece that is going to, make sure you shine.
Okay, thank you. And then perhaps just as a final one, Zoe, you touched on the various social media platforms that people could use. If someone isn't using any at the moment, and that's obviously potentially a free way of doing some marketing, what would be your tip on something to just sort of first, putting a toe in the water to have a go at it?
I always say, Yeah, you should dip your toe in. I think sort of social media is jumping in and getting involved, because then you can learn and progress and work out the algorithms and how they work. Social media is about doing it for the long term. I see lots of sometimes campaigns and people get super excited, set up Twitter accounts, all different ones and stuff, and then don't maintain it. So I would always maintain and actually say allocating some time to that. The LinkedIn is a great channel to start off if you've got a centre manager locally, a local centre manager, and reaching out to businesses locally. That's a great tool, but only if you've got a strong individual person, because company profiles don't work on LinkedIn so well. You're not going to get the attraction. The other one is Instagram. Will take you a while with both of these to build it up. I think that's the one where if you're starting with no budget as well and you're starting with zero, consistency is the key. I think that you consistently keep on building your network, building of the local businesses that you're already occupiers, then the businesses in the area. That's the one where suddenly people look at others and go, oh, look, they've got millions of followers and stuff, and get really scared. It's okay, because you're focusing on local quality and building it slowly and gradually, as opposed to putting loads of money behind it. So I think that's the one. Start doing it, but have your expectations that you're not suddenly going to get millions of followers. Okay, I think that's the one where just to manage expectations and keep. I think it's always the way we're keeping going with marketing activities with consistency. If you're not seeing those results, sometimes it's really easy to give up, and it is the persistency of that work that's crucial with social media.
Yeah, so planning ahead and thinking, well, this is what we're doing now, but this is what we're going to do next week or next month. And certainly for our sort of central position at the Flexible Space Association, we definitely see a lot of LinkedIn engagement from our members, and as you say, often with centre managers running accounts, and which seems to work really well, and for a lot of companies. So.
And it's because it's it's much more a professional, business orientated network. So hence you get the quality. And if you with advertising, you will spend more on advertising on LinkedIn, because you do have the quality. The quality people are there, and you can directly reach out to them as well. So that's one of the key things there.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, Zoe. That was an awful lot of information packed in, and hopefully really, really useful for everybody. And we will put this onto our YouTube channel if anyone wants to catch up on any of the content again. Our next Workspace Wisdom webinar is at the same time, 11 a.m. on Thursday, the 3rd of March. And that's going to be on the topic of how to take great pictures of flexible workspaces, which I think kind of complements the presentations we've had this morning. And that's going to be given by Marek Sikora, who is professional commercial photographer. He's the author of a book, Commercial Interior Photography Guidelines. So I think that's going to be a really worthwhile webinar. And registration details are on the events page of our website. It's open at the moment to Flexible Space Association members. And then if there are spaces available, we'll open it up at a little nearer the time. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you to Zoe. You can find lots more information about Spaces to Places on their website, and also on our website, as they're one of our service provider members. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, and do reach out if you've got questions. So take care.
Thanks, Zoe. Bye.
Bye.